You're listening to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Podcast, the podcast that keeps your practice sharp and your clients happy. I'm your host, immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and every week we're bringing you insights, tips, and real-world conversations with top immigration attorneys and industry leaders. Whether you're here to grow your practice, stay on top of the latest trends, or get inspired, you're in the right place. Ready? Let's go. Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 424 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Podcast. Having a fun guest, our regular Roman Zelichenko, to talk about tech and practice and a lot more. H-1B stuff's popping in because he does have an H-1B related company. He also has a marketing company too. So I like to just pick his brain on these, and I think you'll enjoy it. Before you get started, I want to thank our special sponsor, eimmigration by Serenade. If your workflow still involves cutting and pasting and formatting documents manually, you're going to love this news. The right AI tools can transform your intake process, help you draft full case packets, reduce errors, and automate repetitive work without compromising security. The experts at visalaw.ai, you know them, and eimmigration are hosting a free live webinar on October 14th to show you how. This isn't theory, it's practical guidance for real legal work. Check it out. Save a spot at get.eimmigration.com/events to see how what they're saying works with visalaw.ai and the immigration connection that they've developed, the partnership and integration. Please check it out. Go to get.eimmigration.com/events to register. It's October 14th, free live webinar. I recommend doing it to get to know what's going on there. I do want to thank you for sponsoring the magazine. Issue number 10 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox is out. Go to immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com and click on the magazine link to see that and back issues. A lot of great guidance on how to practice immigration law and every aspects of it. It's a really great resource. And also join our community page, our private community page on Circle.so. Email me with your name and bar info, or go to immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, click on the community page tab, and fill in your information. So I got to make sure you're a U.S. immigration, a U.S. lawyer to join. A lot of free content there, whether you're a beginner or whether you're an expert. We have CLEs, AI stuff. Like today, this new DACA ruling that came in. I made a flyer, 2-page flyer, and I've posted it everywhere on my own, but also have it Word doc so that you could add your own logo and post it. So clients can see that you're active in this space and saves you trouble of figuring out doing it. You could just get that document and make it up yourself and have your paralegal or assistant put your colors and logo on there, send it out like new. So definitely do that. Circle.so it's like a Facebook kind of thing, but definitely check that out. And we have our courses there too. Our EB1A and E2 course are very popular. They teach you how to invest yourself, the kind of case I like to do, which doesn't require you to have an employer or a third-party sponsor get involved. So you do EB1A, you're doing it on your own. E2 investor, you're starting your own business. We also have concept processing and marriage green card course, which is the big one. It's a game changer for people who want to be immigration lawyers. It really gets you fast forward like 2 years of time and do it in 2 months. So it's like incredible. And we have that for you on that page. It's a premium course. Email me for more information. Having said all that, none of the information provided here is intended as individual legal guidance. Please consult with an attorney about your case, but y'all know that already. Let's get to it. Hey, Roman, thanks for coming on the show again.
Hey, John, how are you? Great to be here again.
Wonderful. So let's kind of jump into it. We got somewhat limited time, and there's a lot to talk about. So how has the H-1B situation affected a company like Laborlist, which is at the heart of H-1B?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a week plus since last Friday. It was a beautiful day last Friday. The weather here in New York was great. Everyone was getting ready to relax for the weekend, and then I got my phone started to get going off message after message, like, what is going on with this H-1B? What's going on with H-1B? Turned on the news, watched the press conference that President Trump gave with was his advisor the new director of, I don't remember who was speaking with him. Commerce Secretary. I was like in such shock. I honestly wasn't paying attention. And then they sort of gave this clarification initially that it was going to be $100,000 fee per year per application. Yeah. Since then, obviously things have changed. I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast to the show who is in the H-1B space is aware of what's been what we know now. But for us, I mean, we do H-1B compliance software, and so two thoughts entered my head. One of them is, in a sense, this may be good for us, not the fee. I mean, the fee is bad for, I think, almost everybody. But there's this sort of Project Freedom that they put out, the Department of Labor, and so Project Firewall. I'm sorry, not Freedom. Which is set to kind of put a little bit of more meat, I guess, behind or strength behind H-1B compliance. And so for us, we thought, all right, well, we do software for it, and so maybe this will be a good thing. On the other hand, we started talking to clients of mine who are law firms who work with honestly small companies that do a dozen H-1Bs a year to those that do many hundreds or thousands. And there was chatter about some companies sort of maybe putting things on hold in terms of at least new H-1Bs. I talked to one law firm that talked to their client who said they're done. They said no more H-1Bs. Now, this might be an emotional response. The
Yeah.
H-1B process, especially for small businesses, is already fraught with uncertainty. There's the typical sort of lottery that they place their employees in, and if they're only looking to hire a few people, I mean, if you don't get those folks in the lottery, you don't have hundreds of other candidates to go with. You're kind of screwed. And so that on top of this fee, I understand how small employers or smaller employers are saying forget about it. My hope is that from the perspective of our industry and also from the perspective of frankly the economy and the need for skilled talent, um, that this H-1B issue settles down. We get more clarity over the coming weeks and months, and hopefully it won't be as disruptive as indeed a $100,000 fee would be. And so maybe those companies will go back to it. But there's certainly been a lot of discussion of companies saying, well, we can't afford this. I mean, we have to stop this H-1B hiring process altogether.
Yeah. One another addition to annoying aspect of it is it's the small companies that for sure aren't abusing the system. They really need one person, one off in a rural area or something
Right.
like that. They get hit by it. But the big companies that are like mass doing it, that the people against H-1B program are against them. They're the ones who could afford to pay the fee and probably will chunks of them. Now, the business model of just having these companies just outsource H-1B workers, a couple of these IT companies, that their job is just milk the system.
Right.
And they're still work with big companies that'll pay the fee. So it's
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much you'll get to the goals that they had. Like a lot of stuff they do on these laws, like it never gets the intended goal. It just hits other people that are like side players in it. I think this is gonna be much of the same.
Or it creates a news cycle. The one thing I wanted to bring up here, even though I know, we're going to talk a little bit more about technology, but just because the H-1B fee issue is hitting a lot of different people, I was listening to a podcast the other day, yesterday actually, a really well-known business podcast where the folks who are on there are really successful founders, venture capitalists. I'm talking like one of the top podcasts. I mean, they probably get millions and millions of views per episode.
Is this
Totally. Yeah, I
the
won't. I will neither confirm or deny
okay?
what show it was. But it was, let's just say, a respectable business podcast. And all these guys are in business, and so they've worked with H-1B workers. They've certainly hired H-1B workers for their companies, et cetera. And so they sound really confident as they're analyzing this issue. But as I was listening to it, it was about a 25-minute segment. The amount of inaccuracy, misinformation, and then just clear kind of like bias was astounding. I mean, it wasn't anything major. They didn't say, "Oh, the H-1B is meant to hire only people from one country." Like they didn't say they didn't give complete fabrications, but they misunderstood and therefore misrepresented a number of small things. And cumulatively, it sounded great for their stance, which is this fee is a good idea. There's a mass abuse of the H-1B program, and this $100,000 will course correct what was originally intended by the H-1B visa program. So if you give wrong information to support your claim and you say it in an eloquent way,
Yeah.
and you have nobody on the podcast to push back on you and say, actually, I'm an immigration attorney or I run immigration at this major company, and this is you said ABCD incorrectly. Here's the actual information. And so think about that. And maybe that could sort of change people's opinions. None of that. And so my issue, and this is why I appreciate you and Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, um, is that you're bringing people on to talk about things from a truly factual perspective. I mean, they need to do the same thing. We need to spread correct information and facts about the H-1B visa, about who may be abusing it, certainly, and then who isn't, and for those, and what the statistics are for each. So I just wanted to bring that up, for folks who are out there listening to business podcasts or sort of more general news. Take such technical analyses with a grain of salt. And if you want to make decisions based on, hiring decisions or whatnot, or firing decisions based on what you hear, on these podcasts, check in with an immigration attorney first to make sure that these podcasts are getting it right.
We preach you to the choir probably for listeners of this show, but that's it's
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone report about immigration ever in any news article that was accurate. Even ones like pro immigration, it's just so hard to understand what's going on with it. That's it's just impossible
Yeah.
to accurately. It's just like our stuff. When I give advice, I got to write a book to explain to a client something because even I even write emails to my clients recap our meetings, and I say one, two, three, and they come back and say, "You said ABC." I'm like, I didn't say
Right.
that at all. I had to use an email. It's written, and like, how did you get that in
Yeah.
the reply? So it's so hard. It's so weird that it just doesn't stick. Immigration and how it works. It's a peculiar situation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So just want to share that. So we want to talk about the AILA marketplace survey, right?
Yeah, the Barks
Which,
service came. It was an interesting one. There's chunks of it where I'm like, oh, they kind of went on tangents. So I'm like, that's not as important to me. But there's
right.
also a lot of interesting ones. Why don't we start with you? Because you definitely looked at the tech section. What were your thoughts on any notes on that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the use of technology has really, increased quite a bit. Um, and what I found interesting was, what are we in 2025? This thought that video conferencing is used by 93%. That was like the top technology that was being used
Yeah.
by folks. I actually talked to an immigration tech company today that was showing me their. It was giving me a demo, like looking for some feedback. They haven't really launched yet, and I gave them some tough love, and I said, "Look, you've got some AI, you've got this nice interface, everything looks good, but the thing is that the full extent of the market, the immigration law market, doesn't need a million bells and whistles. Like
Yeah.
we're still catching up. We as an industry are still catching up with overall adoption of more kind of basic things, which and that makes sense. Where lawyers are typically a bit risk averse. We're dealing with sensitive client data, and it takes a while for the mass of immigration attorneys and firms to, I guess, look at what's being adopted in a successful way to then make a decision to adopt it themselves. And again, looking at the survey, if you look at the immigration, if you look at there's exhibit one here in the technology and innovation track. It says law office technologies currently in use 2025. The number one was video conferencing, 93%. And then
Hmm.
technologies that are essential, the number one was considered video conferencing. So think about that. We got out of COVID, let's just say 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago, however people want to think about it. And this is the number one thing it has really caught on over the course of the last few years. And of course, as you go down the line of more sophisticated technology, adoption rates across the board are lower. If you for and the biggest one, of course, is AI. They have a whole section on generative
Yeah.
AI. For anyone who has, I definitely recommend checking out the survey. Um, the By the way, it's called Insights now. The Practice Pulse, not
Practice
Marketplace
Pulse.
study,
Yeah.
but same idea,
Practice
right?
Pulse 2025. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, for generative AI, as part of their survey, 32% said they have not adopted it at all or rejected it. I would be really curious to hear, of the folks surveyed, how many people straight up rejected it. So which is an active choice versus not adopting AI, which is a more of a passive choice. So that's 32%. 44% have minimal, excuse me, minimal adoption, just starting to explore. So altogether, that's 76%. Okay, it's three quarters of the immigration bar, I guess, if you want to look at it and extrapolate that way, is either not using it or just starting to explore AI. And I think that's really important for people to note for two reasons. Number one, for lawyers who think they're falling behind because they're not using AI all across their platform, their law firm, don't worry, you're not falling behind. You're actually with the majority. Yes, there are some firms out there that are, you know, super experimentational and they'll invest money into different tools. Fine. Still, the jury's still out as to whether all the time they're spending on it is netting them, increased revenue or whatnot. But surely it's good to do that because you know what's happening. But it's easy to fall into this thought process of, oh my gosh, I'm at this point, right? Everyone's talking about AI. I don't know what it is. I'm nervous about it. I don't trust it, whatever it might be. That actually is still the vast majority of folks. So that's the one thing. Don't fret about it. Um, on the one hand. On the other hand, there are so many companies. This isn't out in the study, but just myself as now a vendor, right now I'm on the other side, no longer an attorney. There are so many AI companies popping up. Either they're straight up AI companies or they're forms, translations, case management, but the AI is at their core. And so I think for the majority of folks who are not yet either rejecting or not yet using AI, it's time to start at least, I think, doing some research and playing around with these tools. My recommendation is always set aside a little budget if some tools don't have, let's say, free trials. Set aside a little budget of money and time to play around, because that vast majority of folks who are not using it or barely using it is going to start to shift towards the vast majority using it. So you don't want to fall behind. So summary there is, don't worry that you're not using AI yet. You're not in the minority, but you should start thinking about when you're going to begin looking at AI, because if you continue to reject it over time, the balance will shift towards the majority of firms using it, and then it'll be arguably harder to catch up.
Hey everybody, I'm gonna jump in really quick to remind you of our private community page. Join now. Go to immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Click on the community tab and put in your information. You have to be a U.S. lawyer. Don't have to be an immigration lawyer, but you have to be a U.S. lawyer. You got to check that out online to see if we could confirm that and join the page. Almost 400 people now have joined. We're going to go to 1,000 and things will get really churning. We want you to be part of it to take things to the next level. immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Check out the community tab there and fill in the information and get access to the rest of the stuff that we give for free on that private community page. Let's get back to the show. Feeling of the .com boom era of the 90s, because everyone who made a website to become a millionaire, and every week I'm getting someone who makes a new AI product for immigration lawyers. I'm just thinking there's there's not that enough immigration lawyers to buy all these products. I don't know how they're going to make money, because
Right.
it's just, and they're good ones too. Like, they're not bad softwares, but it just becomes
Yeah.
kind of overwhelming how much competition there is. So there's going to be
Yeah.
as the bubble bursts, but then we see who's left over and who's consistent enough and shows up to work every day and just does the job, and they're going to win out.
Totally. I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but I completely agree with you. That is the feedback that I give to a lot of folks who, have already done work and built something and then kind of reach out to me and ask me for some advice. I hate saying this. I try to say it in the most loving way possible, but I tell them this is a good product. But at this point, there are so many smart people building virtually the same thing, that this meets expectations, but it doesn't necessarily exceed expectations. And given how, let's say, small the market is, if you're not wowing people and really having them convert, you're just not likely to have a big enough business to support it, let alone to quote unquote exit and make a killing. Now, some people say we'll start with immigration law and we'll expand into other places. That's definitely feasible. Immigration law is a really good um, first kind of entry point into legal tech. It's flat fee based for the most part, and so there is an incentive to be more efficient. And efficiency is often created by technology. That's number one. Number two, there's been a lot of innovation in it, and it's sort of part of the DNA. It feels like of immigration. Some of the first case
Mhm.
management systems ever were for the immigration industry, to my knowledge. And so cloud based, right? Also, immigration case management platforms, forms platforms went on the cloud like in early 2000, 2000. So yeah, so I think
A
that's
lot of
true.
them
But
were
like if you
former applicants, and then they work with their immigration attorney. So they're like tech people that came in the immigration process. Like, well, I could do this too because all the forms I did. So it's the first,
right.
ambitious foreign tech person coming in and jumped on it.
And all respect to them, and they're building a great thing, but if they don't do enough market research to see what is already being built, they're going to spend their time and energy building something that's probably pretty decent, but it's
Yeah.
just amongst 5, 6, 7, 10 competitors, and those competitors have a slight advantage of being there first. And it just like, I mean, sure, you can get 5, 10 law firms, maybe 15. It looks exciting, but it's not going to support a business that's super viable, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Well,
I will say this: I had a guest on my show last week who I met at a recent conference who is building an AI kind of reception service, and or like not just a receptionist, but like somebody who helps schedule things and schedule calls and send meeting. But it's all AI based, speaks multiple languages. That's a really great use case for starting with immigration, but then also expanding into other legal fields, verticals, or even just other professional services. Accountants, engineering firms. I mean, you name it. So I think there are instances of AI companies that start in immigration and truly will expand into other spaces. But I think others that go super deep into building out forms and building out modules for the beneficiary and the petitioner and the lawyer and all that stuff, it gets really deep into the immigration workflow. And, you know, I just, it's hard for me to foresee all of them surviving.
Well, when there were a lot of MP3 players in the '90s or the 2000s when Apple came out with their iPod at the time or whatever it was, and the two things it is one, it made it so sleek and sexy that it like took over, and they had massive marketing campaigns. So you could have essentially the product existed, but they just made it very nice looking and then marketed the hell out of it. So you got to do that. Now I have ulterior motives too because we sponsor have sponsors, and but that's the way a lot of them are successful. You gotta get the word out a lot, so it's a deep marketing campaign that goes with it. Now I know we only have like 6 minutes. So I want to do some rapid fire, three sets of questions because you're in a unique position as a two business owner. One is
Let's go.
in the tech survey. They said I was surprised CRM usage in the immigration space is like a third. Do you use CRMs for your business? Do you keep track of all leads that come in and stuff like that?
I do. I mean, I use Monday.com, but my bit. Oh, sorry, I use HubSpot, so I do use CRM that way. And then I also use Monday.com for project management. So I kind of use both. I'm not surprised. I mean, a lot of firms I talk to are referral based, especially small to mid-size, especially solos, but small to mid-sized firms too. And so they're successful because they do good work, and folks refer clients to them, but they're not necessarily tracking them. They take them as they come. If they sign up, great. If not, maybe they'll follow up at some point.
Okay, question two, overhead. There was a large number of law firms that have no idea how much the overhead is. Do you keep
Mm,
track of every cost that goes in the business, costs out, how it what are your thoughts about that?
totally. And by the way, I think every attorney, if you want a good bookkeeper, please reach out to me. My bookkeeper is great, and she works with a lot of attorneys. I mean, I don't. My business is not a law firm per se anymore, but
Hmm.
it's a service business, just like a law firm, or in many ways like it. Um, we have a call every month. She has access to my books, right? Should we go through every single cost, every single line item? And the nice thing about working with a bookkeeper on a regular basis is that they'll get to know your business. And so when an expense is greater one month than it typically is, or something new comes in, they'll flag it. A good bookkeeper will flag it and say, "What was this?" And sometimes I don't remember, and I have
Hmm.
to. And part of our monthly meeting is I dive into my bank statement and I think, what did I buy? Sometimes it was maybe an incorrect purchase. Sometimes it was just something that I forgot about. But it's really, really important to know that. So I'm a little surprised to hear it. But again, we're not taught business best practices in law school. So some of these things we learn along the way.
And the third thing is about marketing, which your GMI Rocket is a big, essentially, it's a media marketing company. Training is also marketing for law firms. 1% of law firms on the survey they have freemium offerings like white papers and do-yourself online forms. I'm not one of the 1%. I mean, I am one of the 1%. That is. But what has your perspective been on giving do-yourself white papers, freemium offerings for either of your businesses?
Okay, so for Laborless, I mean, so the tech company as a vendor, we don't have a freemium offer, just because our software is so specific. If you're going to use it, you have to sort of set up your client with it. You have to set up your firm with it, and it just is not the kind of thing that you can easily step into, try for free, and then ditch. Mostly again because you have to work with your H-1B petitioner for it. So that one we don't offer for free, but there are other incentives to get people on board if they're really small
Well,
and
could you do like a
don't have
white
a lot of
paper
budget
that
or
describes what the service entails and how it's effective, is different, and saves them and stuff like that?
oh, from that perspective, yeah. I mean, is free, right? And content a lot of times is education. And so, yes, from a marketing standpoint, I definitely hopefully educating people on H-1B visa compliance, on various best practices, et cetera. and same thing for the marketing business, which is a service business where I spend my physical time, like I was when I was a lawyer, deliver a product and then get paid for that product, which was a reflection of my time. I don't offer things for free per se. Like I would never say, let's work for a month together for free, and then if you decide if you like it. But I will give people, free consultations, which is a one-off thing. I'll give them free kind of tips or things like that on
Yeah.
their LinkedIn profile if they don't seem to know much at all. So they're definitely giveaways, but they're not structured. I don't like to do that. And the reason I don't like to do that is because I want all of my clients, whether they're existing or prospective, to know that my time in an official capacity is worth something always. There's no such thing. And I've had people ask me for a discount, and I told them, no, I'll do less work for you, but I can't discount my hours. Why is my hour living, breathing on this earth for you worth X amount, whereas for the other person it's worth 1.5x? Why? I'm the same person, same hour on the same planet,
Yeah.
and it's hard to argue that. So I think that's a good practice for folks to do. But like lawyers do free consultations, I'll do something similar as well. I think that is important.
Well, yeah, I know you got to go right now, but I'll do like free live show where people once a week ask questions so you get to know my temperament and stuff like that, how I think about things. And we had guides on how different processes, which are 50 plus pages. So it took a lot of time to make them. But when I give them people, a lot of times like, wow, that really helped out. I can see you care what you do, and they'll hire because of that. But a lot of people don't. They do their own cases with it even, but they leave good reviews or just goodwill out there. But it's
Yeah,
something to,
definitely.
it's if so few people are doing it, it's like one of those things like, okay, let's do something different than what everyone else is doing. Because right now, everyone's essentially on who has a website, for example, or TikTok potentially nowadays. So, got to keep thinking of what other people aren't doing and doing that. All right. So, right
Exactly.
on. Yeah, your video is
Definitely.
kind of clocking out, but I know you got to leave right now anyway. So, Roman, thanks again for coming on the show. And it's going to be a crazy rest of the year. So, I'll look forward to have you probably late October or something like that, or maybe even go to
Yeah,
November.
yeah, definitely. Thank you, John. Looking forward to it. I hope we'll have better news in late October, early November than we do now.
Oh, for sure. All right, brother. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening. Roman's always been really kind to share his time. It's a hectic time of the year with so much going on, so you have to sneak it in. We want to do this monthly, but I'm traveling. He's traveling. There's holidays. There's a lot going on, as you all know. And towards the end of the year, it gets kind of busy and slow at the same time. There's a slow period sometimes during summer that kind of is wild, and then during the winter, they have this thing that like, okay, December's always slow or summer's always slow in immigration law, and it's a good way to make yourself feel better if you're not doing well, but it's not true. And I always every time I try to think like that, and it happens to me too. I'm like, no, it's not true. This year is gonna be different. Like let me do more marketing, let me do some more writing, blogs and videos and networking to make it different. And it does work. So as we're slow, as our beginning of the third quarter or fourth quarter is starting a home stretch, go out strong, push it. There's more need for immigration lawyers than ever before, and clients realize that, so they're hiring more than ever before. Some people are struggling. I don't want to make you feel bad, but do what you can with the extra time you have and charge accordingly. This has been a big game changer in our practice where we're not doing everything for free like we usually do. Oh, you got an RFE, we'll do it for free. You got this. Oh, you want to spend extra 2 hours to talk with us? I love doing that. It's not like I don't want to do that, but we got to pay the bills, and everything's getting expensive. So just be really careful about how you charge on things. And clients understand in immigration law, we're cheaper than any other lawyer anyway. So if they hire a divorce attorney, a corporate attorney, any kind of attorney, they're going to be paying a lot more, and they're paying hourly, and they're paying up the nose with fees. We're really not that expensive relatively, but we really put our lives, our blood, sweat, and tears into it. So there's nothing wrong with it. I got to tell myself this because I always want to just do everything for free. I have this podcast where I just give information free too. But just remember that stuff as we're going to home stretch. When you do have more than you expect at the end of the month, it really helps you be able to focus on your clients and have quality of work and your team members. Give any bonuses and stuff like that. So important. But when you don't have it, it's tough. You don't want to go to Christmas now. You'll pay for your kids. The old story goes, your Christmas presents for the kids. That's the last thing you want. It really ruins morale and makes you a less good attorney. So having said all that, God bless, be safe. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye. If you like this episode, follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, where we post the latest statistics, tips, and more. And stay tuned for more from the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast.